Lawwin Media Network,
bringing to you the most relevant content across all platforms.
business, legal, politics, health, lifestyle, and entertainment.
Your source for all the news and updates in the greater Houston community from Texas and all over the world.
Get informed and empowered with Lawwin Media Network.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pink Table Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Carly D., a doctorally prepared nurse, mentor, professional development specialist, and domestic violence advocate and survivor. It's been a couple of weeks since we last filmed. Last week we had some technical difficulties, so I'm sorry you all missed last week's episode. However, our guest, she will be back with us next week, so that way you guys can get your questions answered on autism and motherhood. It's been a very busy week for myself. Last week, I got to perform at the Houston Rockets halftime show. It was a goal that I set for myself this year, something that I've always wanted to do. It was a way for me to come out of my shell and to check something off of my bucket list. I actually think we have some clips from the show. So if we can bring those up.
Performance, please.
Yeah, so there I am. I got to 40 different girls with the Diva Dance group. And it was just such a wonderful and spectacular experience. We practiced very hard for 4 weeks. We did just multiple sessions, multiple rehearsals, and it was just such a great and fun time. So here is a clip of the performance.
Performance, please welcome to the court, Diva Dance.
So that was a great time. I am not a dancer by trade. I have never performed live a day in my life as a dancer. But it's something that's always been a passion of mine. Growing up in New York City, everybody sings, dances, or acts. And so the last time I've done any type of group dance was probably in the first grade. So this was just such a thrilling experience for me, and one that I will definitely cherish forever. I got to meet a bunch of really awesome women during this experience, and so it is definitely something that I hope to do again one day in the future. So tonight we have a wonderful episode. We brought back one of our favorite speakers from season 1, Coach D. She is a international master certified life coach. She specializes in life goals, trauma recovery, and healing from toxic and narcissistic relationships. She is also a practicing licensed clinical addiction specialist with a master's in family therapy. She has her own professional brands, Deanna Louise and Coach D Consulting, LLC. She also offers one-to-one private coaching, and she also does group sessions through the Circles app. So please welcome again to the show, Coach D. Hey. Welcome. Oh, let's see. Okay, say something again. I think you
glad to be here. Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Oh, you're so welcome. We're so pleased to have you. You were definitely one of our favorite guest speakers from season 1. So we've had a lot of requests to have you back on the show. So I'm glad you're able to join us.
Thank you. It's an honor. It's an honor to be here.
Yes, Coach D, what's new besides the hair? I'm loving the hair. The blonde looks really great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I was blonde for a little bit in January.
Yeah. You know, you got to switch it up every now and then. Keep them guessing.
Oh, yeah, I know. Now people are like, who is? I'm like, it's just me. So what's new, Coach D? What's new in your life and in your coaching? I know you have a new website. Yeah. So tell me, what's new?
I do have a website that just recently launched. I am also coaching on the Circles app. If people have access to that or want to download that, I'm a professional facilitator there as well. So I've been busy. I've been really busy with groups. My personal groups, my groups on Circles, master classes, just you name it, individual group master classes, you know, on anything and everything that is touching on toxic and narcissistic relationships, and also sobriety coaching. Been doing some sobriety coaching as well. Yeah, so yeah, helping some people in that space, which has been really good. Working with some people, you know, obviously in the trauma space as well. So yeah, I've been busy. And busy is good. Busy is very good.
Yes. Yeah, that's really awesome. Yeah. You know, I feel like these are really important areas that are very relevant now, especially for this age.
Absolutely.
Yes. Of people who are coming out of narcissistic abuse relationships, toxic relationships. There's a huge momentum right now where people really just want to learn. They really want to know what is healthy versus unhealthy, and how to get out of these patterns and break these cycles. So that's awesome that you're able to help these people.
Yes. And it starts with awareness. It starts with awareness, understanding what type of relationship you're in. Are you in a healthy relationship? If you're not, what to do? There's something that we have to do, you know, in order to promote a healthy relationship or a healthier experience, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I feel like it's, you know, this generation especially, we really are open to learning and to learning new ways. especially in
Yes,
communication. Yeah, and relating to one another. So that's awesome.
yes. They're learning so much faster than we did. This new generation.
Oh yeah, because we were just dealing with it. We was like, oh, that's normal, girl.
Yes,
That's normal.
yes. This new generation is teaching us a lot. It really is teaching us a lot.
Yes, and
Yeah.
so it's empowering, and what is that? Not only am I recognizing toxic patterns, not just in personal relationships, but also in work
Yes.
relationships. Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
We know
Yes, there's a
we know
lot of.
narcissism shows up everywhere. On the job, in the
Oh my
family.
goodness.
It's not just intimate
Yes.
relationships. It's everywhere, you know. And honestly,
Yes.
we with all the social media hype, it really just perpetuates narcissism. Everything is all about attention. All eyes on me. Am I getting attention? Am I getting the likes? And some of it is
Yes.
healthy. Some of
Yes.
it is healthy, but then some of it is not so healthy. And so I tend to work in that
Yes.
space to help people recognize when it's no longer a healthy situation, and what to do about it, how to navigate those situations, because they can be challenging.
Absolutely, absolutely. Your last appearance on our show has actually helped a lot of women who are going through divorce.
Mm,
One of our producers for the show, she's a divorce attorney, and she actually uses your video to help her clients because her
oh
clients were
wow.
like, "Why is this so difficult?" Yeah, they were like, "Why is divorcing this man or this woman?
Yes, it is
Why is
definitely a
it so
difficult
difficult?"
process. Yes.
Yes, because it's not normal, Like most
Right.
people, they're like talking about dividing assets and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
the regular divorce stuff. But no, these people are going through like smear campaigns. They got to get
Yes.
restraining orders and just all kinds of
Yes.
just
Drama.
craziness,
Yes.
craziness.
Yes, it's just not an easy, it's not an easy exit trying to divorce,
No,
someone that's narcissistic. That's a challenge in itself, you know.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, for
Yeah.
sure, and it's a longer process,
Much
a much
longer.
longer.
Absolutely. Much longer.
Yeah. Yeah. And they end up spending thousands and thousands
Yes.
more.
Yes. Wasting a
Yeah.
lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources. It can be exhaustive. It can really be exhaustive. It really can,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. Um,
And it's the
so
men
we're going to
too.
dive
I
into,
was gonna say it's
oh,
the
yeah,
men
yeah,
too. I'm finding so many men dealing with
yes,
narcissistic partners. It's really at an all-time high right now.
yes, it really is. And I'm wondering what's causing it. Is it just because we're recognizing it more, or are
I
there
think
people
so.
that truly have more? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, because I want to dive into
I
that.
think we just have a more awareness of it now. It's always been around, but I think social media perpetuates, this type of behavior, and so
Yeah.
it's something that we're paying attention to now, you know. We're just paying a lot
Yes.
more attention
Yes.
to it.
That's
Yeah.
good. It's good. It's definitely a good thing to recognize these unhealthy patterns and unhealthy situations.
Yeah.
So before we dive into narcissistic abuse patterns and answer some questions from our audience members, we're going to take our first commercial break of the evening, but we'll be back with Pink Table Talk with Coach D. Welcome back to Pink Table Talk. The show is produced by Longwind Media Network, and you can watch us live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, either through our YouTube channel or Facebook Live or Twitch TV. Or you can catch us recording of the show on 18 different podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and Google. Tonight we have Coach D, a certified life master coach and toxic relationship expert. So before we went on break, we started talking a little bit about narcissistic relationships and toxic relationships. For our audience, can you remind us again, what is a narcissistic person or someone who suffers with NPD?
Yeah, someone who suffers from NPD or even presents with narcissistic traits is living in a what we call a grandiose kind of way. They have a grandiose view of themselves, right? So they think very highly of themselves. They think they're above others. They are attention seeking always. The attention is an insatiable need. So they have this excessive need for admiration. You know, there's not enough attention that they can receive that would actually satisfy them. So, you know, they're always looking for new forms of supply or people that they can get this attention from. And good attention works, bad attention works, you know, as long as it's all eyes on me, you know. Unfortunately, it comes with a very, very toxic, abusive cycle, a repeated pattern of behavior that involves 4 phases that starts out really nice. You know, it starts out, you know, with what we call idolize or idolization. Most people know it more commonly known as love bombing. That's the most beautiful phase of a narcissistic relationship because you're idolized, you're placed on a pedestal, you're made to be, you know, the best of the best. You know, and it's the feel good part of a toxic relationship, you know, and every relationship has a feel good piece. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a relationship, right? But somewhere along the lines, the narcissist gets frustrated because they're in a domineering relationship where they have all the power and control. And when they start to feel like you're not complying with them, that's when things go awry. And it can get very dangerous. So,
Interesting.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So it's important to raise people's awareness. I enjoy teaching about it and helping people learn, you know, all the different various ways that it shows up. Because a lot of times what you think is a normal relationship is in fact a very toxic one, you know. And it's easy to normalize behavior, you know, because maybe you grew up in a toxic, you know, family, or maybe you have been around toxicity, so you normalize the behavior and you may not be aware of what a healthy relationship should look like, you know. And so I'm the national whistleblower to let people know what you know, I'm
Yes.
here to let people know, you know, what a unhealthy relationship looks like, and you know, some things that you should be aware of or concerned about if you are looking to be in a healthy relationship.
Yes, absolutely. You helped me 2 years ago when I had been years out of a very toxic, narcissistic, abusive relationship. But I had never really understood if what I experienced was what I experienced. You know, I felt like, is this just in my head? Am I reading too into it? Am I making them to be an abuser? You know, I just had so much confusion about it. And then I joined one of your groups and I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I went through. And then, you know, just hearing everybody's stories, they're all the same. It's like we just
Right.
put a different name, different face, and we all went through like the same thing, even down to like some of the behavior, you know, just the
Yeah,
I mean, it was just so crazy to me. So,
it
but it was so
is.
validating. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, It is because you don't really, if you don't know a whole lot about narcissism, you don't really understand that there's a reason why you're made to be, to feel confusion. There's a
Yeah.
reason why you carry so much anxiety. There's a reason why you're feeling insecure consistently. You're afraid consistently. You're isolated from family and friends. There are reasons behind everything that they do. And I think it does help when you're in group sessions and you can hear the stories of other people. It starts to, one, it makes you realize that you're not alone in your experience, but you
Yes.
also learn like so much from other people's stories. It's nothing like realizing that it's not you. There's nothing wrong with you.
Yes,
you know
because for the longest time, my ex and his family, oh, you're the narcissist, you're the
Exactly.
bad guy, you're the villain, so to
Hmm.
speak,
Hmm.
and we really take that on, somebody who is more like an empath, we'll take that
Hmm.
on and we really feel that and we'll wear that,
Hmm.
and so
Yeah.
hearing everybody else's stories and kind of being able to put a name to some of the tactics that were used, it really helped me to shed and break free from that and be like, no, it wasn't me.
Right.
you
Exactly.
know?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
And
it
it's
was
it's
just,
not all a bad experience. What I've been
yeah,
teaching as of late is for people to find the positives in this experience. As bad as it can
yes,
get, this is an opportunity for you to really learn yourself, right?
yes,
Because that
yes.
narcissistic person learned you better than you knew yourself. So now it's an
Hmm.
opportunity for you to do some self-reflection, think about your goals, think about your own ideas and your values, start building your self-worth. Now's it's time for you to focus on yourself. And in these relationships, that can be very difficult to do, very difficult.
Yes. Yes, like I said, you start to take on what they're saying you are and who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you're out of that situation, you're like, who am I? You're often left confused about your own self identity. So, like you said, for me, it was a gift. And when I finally broke free from the devastation of that, it was learning who I am
Yeah,
and learning, about myself. Yeah. And being like, no, I'm not those things,
exactly.
and I don't have to, yeah, I don't have to accept what someone tries to put on me,
Right.
you know.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, so it was just for me, I look at it now as if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have found the strength about myself that I didn't know.
Right.
And I wouldn't have, yeah, and it helped me look at my past and my
Exactly.
childhood.
Exactly. It can do
Yes,
so
yes.
many wonderful things, as so many wonderful things can come out of a toxic situation. When you think about, you have an opportunity to learn more about yourself. You get to do the self-reflection. You
Yeah,
may find out that you had traumas before this relationship that were not dealt with. Now you can deal with them, whether you get into one-on-one therapy sessions or coaching sessions or whatever you need to do to get the support that you need to get back to yourself, you know, get back to your
yeah.
self identity, your own thoughts and ideas, and not live up under the ideas of someone else, where someone is controlling your every thought, controlling your every move, controlling down to what you wear, what you say, what you think. Just really building yourself self-worth back. I mean, it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful
It
thing.
really is. It really is. And the work you do every week, I mean, we had the rooms full, they only had a
Yes.
limit of like 50.
Yes. We still
We
have
would
a
have,
waiting space.
yeah, but I mean, just listening to you and the wisdom you shared, the advice you shared, it was so empowering and it was so freeing. It was like I felt like I had been stuck for such a long time, but finally hearing the things you had to say helped me to break free. And so I think what you're doing is
Thank
wonderful,
you.
and I hope you continue to do that.
Absolutely. And that is the key, Dr. Carly, breaking free. Honestly, if you're
Yeah.
carrying trauma, trauma has to be released. It has to be processed and it has to be released. So you need tools, you need techniques, you need to learn that. It's like I just said this the other night to a client. I really don't like the saying time heal all wounds, because I think it's such an empty statement. Time has been going by and people are still hurting, right? It takes more than the time going by. It really takes you understanding the situation that you're in, trusting the process on how to move in your healing journey, and then doing the work. Like, there's a work that's involved, in order to get these yourself to a healing state. It's not just a matter of some fairy dust is going to touch you and that trauma is going to go away. You have to really process that and learn how to release trauma. You learn how to break free from it, but you can do it, and I love teaching people how to do that, how to do just that. Yeah.
Yes. One of the hardest parts of the healing process is a stage called going, what is it, no contact. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes. So no contact. The reason why no contact is so important in a toxic or narcissistic relationship is because when you're in a relationship of power and control, a domineering relationship, they are continuously manipulating you, gaslighting you, distorting your reality, right? And so they do this merely by having access to you, right? So going no
Wow.
contact
Wow.
actually disrupts that function, right? When you go no contact, you can't gaslight me if we're not talking. You can't manipulate me. It's actually a
Yes.
blessing in disguise, because it's a moment of time where, although you may feel abandoned, you may feel hurt, you may feel sad or depressed that you're not able to reach the person. But if you really think about it, you also cannot be abused at that time, right? And so no
Wow.
contact is really what disrupts a narcissistic person. When they no longer have access to you, they cannot do all of those toxic behaviors because you're not available. But what happens in a narcissistic abuse cycle, the narcissist realizes that. They realize that, this no contact is not going to work. So they will go out of their way to try to create scenarios to get access back, to gain access back to you. And so they will come up with suicidal threats. They'll come up with medical conditions will all of a sudden pop up, anything and everything, any kind of emergency to get your attention, because what they're really trying to do is break the no contact to start the cycle all over again. It literally has been disrupted with no contact. And that's why it works so well. If you want to get out, it's the way to go.
It's so true, the medical emergencies, because I remember my ex, he would be like, oh, he's bleeding or he's got to go to the hospital. It was always
And I don't mean to
something.
laugh. I'm only laughing because I've heard it so many times. Like, if they knew
Yes,
how many
yes,
people said the same
yes,
story or cried out, I'm gonna kill myself if you don't come get me, or
yes,
I can't,
yes,
you gotta
yes,
come give me
yes.
gas in my car. I have no gas. You have to meet up with me because my car's about to cut off. I mean, I've heard anything and everything,
Yes.
and
Even
it gets to
pictures.
be,
Yeah.
yeah, it really gets to be
Fake
hilarious.
pictures. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a fake picture sent to me with a red marker drawn on the hand, saying they were bleeding out by the hand.
See, anything to regain access to you. They are going to go above and beyond. And really, they can get so creative with their stories. I'm at the point now where I think all of them could be actors. Like
Yes.
seriously, because the creativity is definitely there. They're committed to that creativity. They are going to sell you on the story that they made up, and sometimes it sounds believable.
Absolutely.
You want to believe it. And mainly because of what we call the trauma bond, the emotional bond that you've
Yes.
developed with them over time. It made you trust them. It made you want to believe them. So now, when they say things to you, even condescending things, you actually believe that they believe what they're saying. And honestly, they're not even attached to half the things that they say. And that's
Wow.
why they can't remember
Wow.
anything. Sometimes you would say something like, "Oh, but you said this," and they'll say, "No, I didn't. I never said that." And you're like, "Oh yeah, you did." And I remember exactly where we were when you said it. And they'll deny it to the hilt
Mm.
because their mind stays in a distorted reality. And so it creates a
Wow.
distorted reality for the victim as well.
Wow. Oh, such a hot topic. Such a hot topic. I want to get more onto that memory thing and that gaslighting
Yes.
thing.
It's so
Our second
prevalent.
commercial break. Yes, it's so interesting. We got to definitely get back onto that one. But we're going to take our second commercial break of the evening, but stay tuned for more Pink Table Talk with Coach D.
In a world filled with fleeting moments, there's beauty waiting to be captured. My name is Christian, and I specialize in immortalizing your most precious memories. From elegant weddings to vibrant events and timeless portraits, I'm here to make every moment unforgettable. Let me tell your story through the lens. Contact me today and let's create magic together.
Welcome back to Pink Table Talk. We have a few comments from our audience. MJ Versosa says, great topic. And then May DeVera asked about what about love bombing, and I think we did talk about that. That's the first stage during the idealization stage in the narcissistic abuse cycle. So before we went to break, we talked about this memory thing, and I was recently talking to a friend about this the other day. So why is it that they always have a different memory or different recollection than what we remember? And
Yeah.
that's something that I
It's
noticed. What is
intentional.
that? Can you explain?
It's intentional. There are certain traits that the narcissistic person is trying to create in their victims, and
Mhm.
confusion is one of
Mm.
them, right? So they're consistently going out of their way to intentionally gaslight, distort the reality, create confusion, create anxiety. And the reason they do this is because it's simply easier to control you when you're confused, when you're filled with a lot of
Mm.
anxiety, when you're insecure, when you're feeling afraid or fearful, when they try to lace you with guilt and blame and shame that
Yeah.
everything is on you. When you actually take
Yes.
hold of that, you don't know it, but you inadvertently give the narcissist control over you. So, that's not
Ooh.
something that a victim really recognizes in a relationship. What they recognize is that the person
Mm.
is always making them feel confused. They know how they feel, but they don't know the intention behind it. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Um, does that fall under the category of
It
gaslighting?
does. It does. And when you think about it, if someone is gaslighting and creating confusion in you over an extended period of time consistently, that is going to actually start to affect your body. It's going to affect your mind. It's going to affect your brain functionality. It's going to affect your ability to remember. It's going to affect your central nervous
Mm,
system. So a lot of times you hear people saying, yeah, I have anxiety all the time. I got to take medication. I'm having other medical somatic symptoms show up in my body because you're literally breaking down your central nervous system. And if
wow.
you do that consistently over a period of time, you really are affecting the brain. You really are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a
Wow.
real thing. It's a real thing. And that's why so many of the victims end up having so many physical and medical issues when they're
Yeah.
involved in these type of relationships for a long term. Yeah, it shows up in the
Yeah.
body. Hmm.
Yes. Yes. I remember even for myself, I went to get like a brain MRI. I had to wear a cardiac monitor for like 48
Wow.
hours. It was like I
Hmm.
kept going to my doctor saying like something doesn't feel right, something is
Feel right.
wrong. And yeah, we kept doing all these tests and they kept looking for
Hmm.
something and they couldn't find anything. And as soon
Hmm.
as I left that situation, I'm fine, healthy again. Look, I mean, I did
Exactly.
a halftime show.
That's what stress can do to your central nervous system. It will have your nerves on edge. Yeah, literally.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
But
I had,
like you
mhm.
said, once you left, things started to reverse
Yes,
itself because that's what no contact can do. It can heal you,
yes.
literally.
Because I'm like, why my body breaking down? I was like in my 30s.
Hmm.
I'm like, what's going on?
Hmm. Yeah,
Yes.
all the stress.
So we all the stress is too much. So we had a an audience member email in a question. She wanted to know about, is venting to their friends part of a smear campaign for narcissistic people on the narcissistic spectrum?
Yeah, when they are venting to their friends about you, that is what we call them creating flying monkeys, which is basically allies that work on their behalf, right? And so again, they're attention seeking, they're very image conscious, they're very concerned about how they are viewed by other people. And so they will enlist, allies to work on their behalf to do the
Mm,
work that they want done when they can't be around. So yes, they will definitely start, creating that smear campaign about you with other people. They will do it with even the people in your circle. They will sometimes smear
wow,
campaign to your family and your friends, all the people that are connected
wow.
to you, just to kind of establish control and, find a way to break you down. Yeah. So
Yes,
that's a real
yes.
thing.
Wow, wow, great answer. And then what about if there's another question here? She said, if you mention something that they're doing that's hurting you, but then they start going off on you, bringing up everything you have supposedly done, is that a form of narcissistic or toxic relationship?
Absolutely. That's gaslighting, that's deflecting, that's blame shifting. All of that contributes to the narcissistic experience. And you want to be mindful that when that is happening, the narcissistic person is really trying to establish control. They're extremely sensitive to criticism. So they don't like that you're
Yeah.
calling things out, you're criticizing them, even defending yourself. They will snatch it and create a blame shift and turn the conversation and flip the narrative right back to you. So you do want to be careful when you're confronting a narcissistic person. We call that creating a narcissistic injury. And typically, when you injure a narcissistic person with criticism, they are going to lash out on you. They will not only will they
Wow.
gaslight the conversation, but sometimes they will get even violent with you. That's where the devaluation phase, that next phase after love bombing, That's where you start getting called names and called out of your name, and all the berating comments and all the secrets that you shared are now weaponized against you and thrown back up in your face. Yeah, that's how they're going to respond to you trying to call them out in something.
Wow. Wow. And another question from Joe865. He says, within the LGBTQ community, are there a lot of narcissists or people that suffer with NPD?
Oh, absolutely. They're everywhere. When I say everywhere, you could go to the post office and find them in there. They're literally walking around in the supermarket. They're walking around in major offices. They're presidents, they're CEOs, they're brain surgeons. Some of them are really, really smart, and some of them are not so smart, but they're everywhere. I'm telling you, they're everywhere. And honestly, I do have several clients within the LGBTQIA community that are experiencing this. And actually, I had one last week tell me now she's thinking that she's, heterosexual now. Now she's dating men all of a sudden, and they've been together for over 5 years. And now she's cheating with men. And, narcissism, when I tell you they're attention seeking, it doesn't matter. They'll get it from another female. They'll get it from another man. It doesn't matter as long as they're getting that excessive admiration that they desire. They're going wherever it is, So if you create that narcissistic injury, they're looking for new supply. They're looking for new supply. Those relationships are what I call transactional. They're not in the same type of relationship that we're looking for. We look for mutual love and respect. They look for you to complete the transaction and comply and do what I ask you to do. It's a very different domineering kind of relationship. And that's why it's so difficult.
Yeah. Wow. And the last question from Marisol 507. Can people with narcissism change? Like, does therapy
Good
help? Question,
Marisol. Very good question. The short answer is yes, they can get better. The challenge is science says less than 1% will. Okay, less than 1%.
Wow.
All right, that's how small of the population that you see actually seeking help. Now, can they get better? Yes. Will they be cured of it? Probably not, not as a personality disorder. However, they can go into therapy, stay in therapy, stay committed to it, to change, and they can actually improve. They can, but that takes that level of commitment that you typically don't see in narcissistic people. Typically they'll say, there's nothing wrong with me. I don't know what you're talking about. You're the one with the problem. And so that's the challenge there. But the short answer, Marisol, is yes, it is absolutely possible, but it would take a concerted effort of them staying in therapy for the duration.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you so much for answering those questions for our audience members, Coach D. I always appreciate your input. Nobody can say it better than you.
I love those questions.
Awesome. Yes, all very good.
Very good.
So we're going to go into our last commercial break of the evening. I'm so sad we're going to our last commercial break. I want this to go on forever.
I know, that's what they all say.
But everybody stay tuned, and we'll be back to wrap up Pink Table Talk with Coach D.
Tune into Legal Treats with attorney Eileen Ligote Dizon
every Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time.
Get your weekly dose of legal knowledge, especially on family matters like divorce, child custody, child support, estate planning, probate, and immigration.
Engage in discussions by posting your questions, comments, readings, or shoutouts.
See you every Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time. That would be Saturday at 9 a.m. Philippines. Don't miss out.
Welcome back to Pink Table Talk. Tonight we have a hot discussion with Coach D. We're talking about narcissistic abuse cycle and toxic relationships. So Coach D, how does one become a narcissist? Are they born with it? Is it, they grow up and they learn these patterns? How does this come about?
There is actually no one answer that is agreed upon. There are conflicting opinions. Some say that it is definitely hereditary. You do typically see narcissism is nothing more than a byproduct of a dysfunctional relationship. So in many cases, you do find that narcissistic people have learned this behavior from a parent, right? But the jury is still out in terms of if there is a genetic component that is also involved. But absolutely, learned behavior is absolutely there. And I've found, I'd say maybe in my practice, I've had probably 5 people come forward that actually, said that they believe that they are, someone that may be suffering from narcissistic personality disorder. And I've gone over all the qualifiers with them, and there's 9 specific qualifiers, and you need at least 5 of those 9 to get diagnosed. And many of my clients have said, I have more than 5. And I know that I got it from my mom or I got it from my dad, so it's definitely prevalent, in the family. It's definitely prevalent. Yeah, the jury is still out. The jury is still out.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
We have a question from our viewer. They said, "Are narcissists considered angry and or negative people?"
They certainly come across that way at times. Again, if you create a narcissistic injury, you're absolutely asking for Mr. Angry to come out. So they're definitely going to respond with anger because they're extremely sensitive people, right? They're extremely sensitive to criticism, some more than others. So it just, it depends. But the other thing about narcissistic people is many of them present with more than one disorder, right? So I've seen many of them have multiple, personality disorders. In many cases, they're also suffering with substance use. And so if you're abusing substance, you're having difficulty self-regulating, right? Emotionally. So you might have a tendency to act out in a very angry manner. But it could be other things that are contributing to it. Yeah.
Wow.
But anger is definitely something you're going to see. Now there are different types of narcissists. The most severe is prone. We call them the malignant narcissists, and they're the ones that are prone to domestic violence. Now any of them can commit domestic violence, but someone who is considered malignant does it on a consistent basis. It doesn't, they have a really short fuse. So it doesn't take a lot for them to tear up the house and lay hands on you and all of that. So you have to be careful if you're seeing signs that they're angry a lot, they're acting out a lot, the abuse is very physical. Those clients, I immediately tell them you need a safety plan. You need a safety plan, and you need a circle of people to keep you safe. Yeah.
Wow. And what are the other types of narcissistic? So we have the malignant, so that's like the extremely violent one.
That's
What
the
are the
extremely only one. We have the covert, we have the overt. Overts are your presidents, your neurosurgeons, your
Yeah.
CEOs, your heart surgeon, the one that's managing the company, or that CEO of the company. They're large and in charge. They're very, very successful people.
Yeah.
And so they know how to carry, on their own individually.
Yeah.
Whereas the coverts are extremely sensitive, a little bit more emotional. They might present as a little bit more confusing. Those are the narcissists that you have to do a lot for them, right? You've got to
Wow.
help them. They might have just as much confusion as you. They might need you to keep them, in order, keep their life on track. They can't function well without you. That's your covert. And then of course the malignant is the one that is may also have antisocial personality disorder. They have no regard, no regard for people, none whatsoever. And so that's why they're so dangerous. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's terrible.
Yeah.
And so, if someone finds themselves to be with either of these narcissists, what is the first step? What is the first step to break free? What should they do?
If you're looking to break free, the first step is to realize that you have to go no contact.
Yeah.
But you really want to first understand what's happening in the relationship. Because if you don't understand what's happening in the relationship, if you believe you're in a narcissistic relationship, you want to learn all you can about it. Because the more you learn, the easier it will be for you to stay out. Many victims attempt to get out, but then they go right back, right? Because they
Yeah.
don't really understand that they're in an abuse cycle, right? Until things get really, really dangerous. Or they start losing a lot. Then you start to notice, okay, I got to do something. But the more you learn about it, the more it will allow you to do what you need to do to stay out, right? To do the work to recognize what's happening to you. Journal. One of the things that I'm always telling people to do is write down. You need a list of everything that this person has done. You need
Wow.
to start self-reflecting and building that list. And the purpose of that list is because you're trauma bonded in these relationships, you may have a tendency to want to hold on, hang in there, make excuses, hope for the best, try to be positive, and do all of these things. Whereas if you have that list, the
Yeah.
moment they try to gaslight you to keep you, suck you back into this relationship, you have a record of something to look at that brings you
Mm.
back to reality. And that's the
Wow.
purpose of that list.
Yeah.
Journaling helps, but I think that checklist really does help people who are honestly trying to get out.
Wow. Wow. That's great. You mentioned the trauma bond. Can you tell us what that is and how it's developed?
It's literally developed over a period of time of being with a toxic person that takes you through abuse cycle repeatedly. Like honestly, it's really just an emotional attachment to a toxic person, right?
Wow.
So what it
Mm.
feels like though, it presents like an addiction because you actually feel so attached to this person. A trauma
Mm.
bonded person really wants to protect that person. They want to protect the relationship. They want to protect the person because you love the person. It could be a family member, that you're protecting, that you will even lie for, that you will try to keep from getting arrested, even if they commit, the domestic violence. You're the one that's gonna keep things quiet because I don't want you getting arrested, so I have to protect you and say the right things. You're bonded. You're just really significantly attached to this person. And you may not even know that you're again in an abuse cycle until you start to take note of what's been happening, repeatedly, when you start to jot things down, it's hard to deny. When you have that list in front of you, when you start to want to gaslight yourself and say, oh,
Yeah.
it's really not that bad. I know that she loves me or he loves me,
Mhm.
and they're
Mhm.
really trying. So I can't, abandon them. I got to help them because they had so many problems in their childhood. I don't want to be the next problem. And you come up with excuses of why to hang in there. That's what trauma bond looks like. But at the end of the day,
Mm.
if you've got that checklist, you have reality in front of you. So it will make it more
Wow.
difficult for you to self gaslight.
Wow. And how does one break that trauma bond? Is it through no contact?
The trauma bond is literally trauma. So a trauma bond is something that you want to work with a professional. You definitely want to work
Wow.
any type of trauma that you experience that you're trying to release. You want to process that with a professional so that they can work with you one on one. Someone that's trauma informed that can help you process all these things that you need to eventually get released. It takes time, but it is something that you can work with a professional.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great. And one question I always get asked a lot is, for people who constantly seem to be in these toxic, they go from one toxic relationship to the next, or from one narcissist to the next. How do they break that pattern? I hear girlfriends and
Hmm.
people tell me all the time, oh, I just left this one and then I'm with this one and now they're bad and now I'm with this one and they're bad. And it just keeps going.
Yes.
So, how do people break that
That is
cycle?
such an excellent question, Dr. Carly. And I get the same question all the time. It's about self-reflection. It really is about you
Yeah.
learning yourself. It truly is about self-reflection. You need to figure out why you keep drawing in these type of people, right? Because I mean,
Yeah.
life is going to continue lifing. You're going to meet some good people, you're going to meet some not so good people, in the future, and you need to not be afraid of that. You need to know what to do when that happens. Someone who's going from relationship to relationship, and they're all toxic, they all turn out the same way. You're the common denominator. So we need to figure out,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Maybe you have some codependency. Maybe you can't be alone. Maybe you're afraid of being alone. Maybe you just want to take care of everyone and not take care of yourself. Maybe you have low self-esteem. Maybe the self-worth is extremely
Mm.
low. It takes self-reflection. It takes you really working on yourself to get yourself to a place where you know how to set a boundary. So you don't have to be afraid of a narcissistic person coming along, because the first sign of a red flag, you already know what you're going to do. But that's what I see is very common. People do not, especially codependents, they don't know how to set boundaries. So they think
Yeah.
they do,
Yeah.
but you have to set the boundary. You have to be able to answer the question, what am I going to do when this person violates my boundary? And you have to actually come up with that
Mm.
consequence. You have to do it. You have to literally do it.
Yeah.
If you have boundaries, you will be able to manage the people now that doesn't mean you won't meet another narcissist. But if your self-worth
Yeah.
is high enough, if you're doing the self-reflection and that self-worth is solid, you're not going to keep a narcissistic person around very long because they don't align with your
Yeah.
values, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. Wow. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Coach D. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
So if someone wants, yeah, thank you. So if somebody wants to have some coaching or some one-on-one sessions with you, how can they get in touch with Coach D?
Yes, they can. If you're on Instagram, my handle is I am Coach D. That's my handle on Instagram. If you want to go to my website, it's deannalouise.online. You can reach me there. Either way, because I know everybody's not on social media, but most people are on the web. So you can book a session with me on my website, or you can go to my Instagram and pull up my Calendly link and schedule some time with me. I do individual sessions, I do group sessions. I offer 30-minute sessions, 45-minute sessions, an hour. I try to make it work for everybody, in terms of the price point. Some people, but then
Yes, it's worth it. It's
it
worth
is. It is.
it.
And then some people book me, like I have a client right now. She's booking me sometimes twice a week. And so you get what you need. Sometimes I do group sessions because I think, periodically holding master classes is really good. To give people,
Yes,
it's almost like it's information, so you're giving,
yes,
it's almost like in therapy, we call it psychotherapy. But in the master classes, from a coaching perspective, it really teaches you a lot of information. So you're provided with resources that you can take with you, that you can use, from day to day. And so, depending on what the goal is, some people want regular
yes,
life coaching, some people want coaching on new jobs,
yes.
some people come to me, they want sobriety coaching because they see they're developing a problem and they're not quite ready for AA, so it just all depends on what you're looking for. But if it's toxic or narcissistic or you're feeling uncomfortable, I got you. I got you.
Yes, yes, and you definitely had me. Oh man, 2 years ago, boy, was I in a place. But you straightened me out.
Yeah.
You gave me that straight talk, and I was like, oh,
Yeah, I'm gonna shoot it
okay.
straight. I'm definitely gonna fly direct. I'm
Yes, yes, and I like that. I like that direct
yeah,
approach.
yeah, yeah.
So thank you so much, Coach
Thank
D.
you,
I
Dr.
appreciate
Carly.
you. This has been wonderful. Yes,
Yes,
and we'll
always a
have to do this
pleasure.
again soon.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
And thank you to everybody watching tonight. Check out Coach D. Check out either a one-on-one session if you're going through toxic or narcissistic relationships or you're struggling with sobriety. Definitely check out her website and book a session or join one of her master classes on the Circles app. So have a good evening, everyone, and we'll catch you next week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 o'clock Eastern for more Pink Table Talk. Have a good
Good
night.
night, everyone.
Bye.